Welcome to United Shades of Gray, Conversations of Race in America on WSGW. Now, here is your host, Kareem Bowen.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of United Shades of Gray, Conversations of Race in America. Today, we're going to be talking a little bit about preserving legacy. Where are our fathers? I have been trying all morning to make sure that I got the our fathers correctly, because sometimes it can be a tongue twister. But I'm in the studio today with my main man, John B, in the place to be. What's going on, John?
Hello. You got to be careful with that. We're
Going to pirate mode, right? Yeah. And we also have, so John's my producer, but we also have in the studio Mark Bassett. He has been here. This is 2 weeks in a row.
Well, yes, 2 weeks in a row.
So what do we owe this wonderful treasure?
Well, I'm in town for a few months, so I get to sit next to you.
He decided to come in town and slum out with the studio with me and John.
I'm looking at the screen here because I'm sitting close to you, and we need some sort of lamp on Kareem. You can't even see this guy in the.
Whenever I took
the window.
Whenever I took pictures, I would always stand next to the white people, so I would be a little bit lighter because the light was never set for my dark skin, the melanin thing that's going on. But let's see if we get. Look at that. See, I get closer to Mark, and what happens? The picture gets light
because you're blocking the window and the light is coming.
It's a trick that we black people have always had to do because it was never meant for us to have our best picture. But today, thank you, Mark, for sitting next to me and shining the light. But we also have in the studio. Okay, now we got the halo effect coming off from the lights over here. We also have in the studio an esteemed guest today, but he's someone that I have a great deal of respect. He has been here before, but there's a conversation that we've been having that I'm really excited about continuing on today, and that's no one other than Bishop Hurley Coleman. Welcome, Bishop.
Thank you. I'm excited to be in this great company, man. This is high. This is tall grass for me. I'm usually walking in the, in the short stuff.
Mark, could you please help the bishop out? He's got the mic in front of his face. Come on, help him out. Some studio etiquette. Help him get it so we can.
So I sit back there so you can see my face.
Yeah, so we can see.
There you go. Look at this good
because when
man.
I just heard your voice, I thought you were Al Sharpton in the studio today, Bishop. So
if I got that, then I'm looking for the next TV show too.
But you're looking good on today. How's everybody doing today? First of all,
man, I'm doing great. I can't express how glad I am to be alive.
Okay.
Wow. That's great. I need to get some of that going. I'm done with my Christmas decorating, so I'm excited about that.
Okay. Now, Bishop, you weren't here the last time we were in studio with Mark, and Mark has, and I wish you could pull up some of those pictures. I don't know if you have any of those pictures anywhere in your treasure trove. Mark does what I consider insane Christmas decorating.
It's true, Bishop. It's true.
Over the top, over the bottom.
Over the top. Inside, I fully decorate 3 floors and a garage with Christmas stuff. It's a lot of stuff.
3 big floors with everything.
And my wife asked me yesterday, "Are you going to bring the tree up?"
You haven't done it yet, Bishop?
Not yet.
No. Well, it's not December yet, so.
Well, December is technically 2 days away. Thursday, then Friday.
By the time this airs, it will be.
I generally get a nap and a burp away from Thanksgiving before I start thinking about that.
Well, we've signed up to be on the Zonta Walk in Midland, so that means our house is open to the public Saturday and Sunday, and they came in and videotaped the house yesterday, so I had to get it ready early this year.
So what did they videotape the house for?
They put it on the site for people who can't do a live tour.
So there's a virtual tour.
I'll send that to you when it's out.
What does that cost, Mark? Is it just a donation that people are giving?
Yeah, I don't know, to be honest. I think it's $5, and there's 5 houses on the tour.
Okay, cool. So they're raising money for a community.
It's the Zonta Club. It's a women's club, and they provide scholarships for young ladies.
It's pretty much a philanthropic group.
Exactly.
Okay, awesome. Well, I want to get right into our conversation because we have a lot to talk about today. But when I think about what was hot off the press, I had to share this because this is something that it drives me crazy, but it blows my mind at the same time. And we'll talk about it just a little bit. Just recently, hip hop artist Pharrell. You guys familiar with Pharrell?
Of course.
Yep.
Okay, Pharrell. Everybody knows who Pharrell is.
He's a producer as well.
Look,
really. Of course, more of a producer than hip hop.
He is more of a producer, but as of recent, he's been doing a lot of other things he's gotten in
Despicable
front of the
Me.
mic, right?
Yeah.
And so Pharrell he's forged a deal with Louis Vuitton. And I know I didn't pronounce that right according to real folks, but anyways, you know what I'm talking about. Louis Vuitton, whatever, however we say it, right? He's forged this deal. He's had this huge fashion show, and now he has released the first bag that comes out of his collection. I'll talk about that in a minute. That's a whole nother conversation. But he's come out with this new handbag, and the name of the handbag is the $1 Million Bag, and appropriately named because this handbag costs $1 million.
Oh no.
With all of, if you're familiar with Louis Vuitton, which I've been in
Sure,
some of
yep.
those circles, Louis Vuitton, all of the hardware on the bag is gold.
Pure gold, not gold.
Yeah,
flavored.
real gold.
Yeah, real gold.
Internal stitch, just everywhere
Hand
you could, he
stitch
has
and
gold.
everything, yep,
Accents, everything is gold. And so I wanted to talk about this a little bit. First of all, let's take a step back and talk about this new obsession that men have with carrying handbags. What are your
Is
thoughts
that
about
new?
this?
I haven't seen. I mean,
Well, when
it's
I say new, I mean really in the past 5 to 10 years, this thing has been.
I think that's a fad that kind of comes and goes. It's been there before.
Maybe I haven't been here
Yeah,
before because
yeah.
I've
It
never
has
seen
been
this
there
in
before.
It has
I
been there
didn't
before.
know it had come back until one of my children told me that that's the thing that I need to do. That I need to get a bag. I said,
What?
I said, for what? What do I need? She said, well, you got to carry your stuff. I said, well, I need to get stuff first. I don't have any stuff to carry.
There's a difference between a bag. I've seen the satchels, the bags, but I'm talking like
this is more like
handbag,
like a clutch,
like a women's
Right.
handbag.
Oh no. I haven't. No.
Purse.
No.
Let me get it. Let me say it the correct way. It's a purse.
That's you guys talk about that.
I'm just curious. Am I the only person in the world now? Did you pull it up?
I don't know what do you want me to pull up?
Pull
A
up
picture of
$1
a
million.
purse?
To
Oh,
put
the
Louis.
$1 million bag. Okay.
Yeah. Pharrell's $1 million bag. This is a Louis Vuitton purse. It's not a carry-along bag. It's
for
not
men or for women.
It is for whomever. I have my particular thoughts on who it's targeted toward.
Rich people. Not just rich people, insanely rich people.
Well, not even that.
Okay.
Not even that. If that were the case, I would agree. But have you?
Is this it?
See, these are things that they're doing nowadays.
Yeah.
And the little
It's like a satchel, kind of an older.
It's ugly.
No. Well, let's see what you got. Yeah, that's it.
Oh, that's
it.
a duffel bag.
Yeah, it looks like a duffel bag.
That's like a travel bag.
Okay, it's
Yeah,
a purse.
No,
to
that's
me.
not a purse. That's a travel bag.
Okay, I guess maybe you're a little bit more. Okay, but
Yeah.
I saw this $1 million bag. We'll talk.
Okay.
The first question was, what we see LeBron James and a lot of these athletes carrying are purses. Some of them are carrying, if you want to call it a duffel bag, a Louis duffel bag. I've seen a duffel bag before, and those, it's a duffel bag. We've used them for sports all of our lives, right? So it only makes sense that if you're in a very upper echelon tax bracket, that maybe you want letters and labels and other people's names on your stuff. We used to engrave or what do you call it? Stitch. What is it called? Engrave. Yeah. Stitch. There's a particular word I'm talking about. Embroider. We used to embroider our names on them because, we wanted to make sure that people knew that this was our stuff. But now we're putting other people's labels and names on our stuff. But anyways, so is this weird to you all, or is this normal when you see men carrying, and I'm gonna be very direct, men carrying women's handbags, especially in NBA sports? In every area, it has become a common thing that men are carrying purses.
Yeah,
They must have stuff that they need to carry.
Yeah, I mean what he showed us was really a travel bag. I've seen those. I mean, I have a travel bag for like overnight travel.
I have a travel bag as well.
Yeah,
and I have a duffel bag.
But I mean, to me, it's just a fashion trend. And again, I've seen it before. It kind of comes and goes. This one tends to be short-lived.
It's not attractive to me, but I'm really not surprised based on the fact that a couple years ago I saw basketball players wearing skirts.
No, that's exactly where I'm going. Thank you,
So
Bishop.
now, I mean, this move toward whatever.
Unisex. You think that's what this
something.
is?
I don't even think it's one sex. Yeah, unisex. That's how Yvonne Daniels. She's funny, but Some people are calling them pocketbooks. That's what we used to call them back in the day, right?
There's like a clutch, a big clutch, I think.
Okay, so I can understand briefcases, satchels.
It's this inclination toward fashion that's driving people to want to be accepted because it's the latest fashion. I would venture that some people might even get involved in it without even having a desire for it, but just because that's what
everyone else is doing.
Okay, right now.
But that's where I want to go.
Okay,
because that is exactly the thing that I'm looking at. Because these guys are making fashion statements. I would guarantee you that half of these guys, designers are saying, "Hey, if we get this guy to carry our bag, then." Other people
they're paying them to carry their bags.
I mean, come on.
Sure.
Now I've seen receipts that these guys come up with. So they are spending, $120,000 at the Louis Vuitton store or at the Prada store or whatever. So that does happen. But what I'm saying is these guys are carrying these bags in their fashion statements. Oftentimes now they're bringing in, design dress artists and what do you call them? Fashion designers, stylists is the word that I was looking for. To get them dressed, I too, Bishop, when I saw our men wearing skirts, many people may be okay with that. To me, I'm not okay with it.
I'm not okay with it.
And so I have problems with those things. And so
you have a problem with a kilt?
No, they're not kilts.
Okay. All right.
And if you're Irish, then
Scottish.
a kilt makes sense, or Scottish.
Scottish,
yeah. So if you're Scottish, then a kilt makes sense. But if you're from the hood and you've been wearing jeans and running around in kicks all your days, now you want to put on a skirt, it causes me to have questions, right?
What bothers me about this is that there is this tendency to make us think or make it appear as if what you see doesn't mean anything. Now you look at the big picture of all the things that's going on in the world, and how often is it that we're being presented this thing and it's wrong, but it doesn't matter. So now it's acceptable and people are getting away with it, and people in strong leadership positions throughout the world are saying, well, what if I don't think it's wrong, then it's not wrong. And if I don't think it's wrong, then you can't say it's wrong. But there is a difference between right and wrong.
And I can tell you if I like it or not.
And I have the right not to agree with it.
Absolutely.
And if you can't believe your eyes and intuition on one thing, then they can confuse you with another thing. So I think that's
I think, to me, this is my thing and this is my beef. And I think that this is a great conversation and a forum to have this because when I look at this, I am seeing a continual situation. And this is probably of late where we're seeing more black men in dresses. There is I don't know if you guys have ever heard the thing that if you really want to succeed in Hollywood as a black man, then you've got to have an instance in which you dress up as a woman as a part of your repertoire. Okay.
Tyler Perry's made a whole bunch of movies that way.
Well, okay. And so, but if you go back and you look at that and research it, if you are black in Hollywood and you're in entertainment and you want to be famous, there are scenes. Even Chris Tucker was talking about this. If you really want to go to the next level, you've got to dress up and do this woman bit. And I haven't seen that with the hunks or the men in Hollywood. We've seen that happen even with Wesley Snipes, who is an action figure hero.
Yep.
And these are the things that I'm saying, because they may think that it's just fashion, that someone's dressing them. But when I see these iconic heroes such as LeBron James running around, putting on skirts,
and doing it,
Bobby socks,
I'm out of touch.
Yeah, no, you got it. Yeah, he's been, in the pull up little socks, and then clutching his purse as he walks out the door. There are millions of young black boys who are seeing this, who are saying, "Wow, if LeBron James can wear a dress, I can." I mean, what's the purpose? What is the point? And so I for one,
that does look ridiculous.
You guys don't see what Mark just did, but he's in the studio and he pulled up a picture, which I think is actually AI. I think it's actually artificial intelligence that put some of those pictures together.
That's what you don't know what to believe anymore,
and it's hard to understand. Yeah. But when we see these images,
do you hear what you just said? You don't know what to believe anymore.
No, absolutely.
What is believable is changing so much that it's intentional, And pretty soon it won't matter what you believe.
because it's blurred the lines to where people it's acceptable.
Well, there's so much misinformation as well.
And so I guess there's
Yep.
people out there that think that, you know, hey, it's okay. We'll all wear skirts on Sundays and we'll wear pants on Thursdays.
I'm not.
And, what's that?
I'm
Bishop
not.
Coleman's
Well,
no
I'm
way.
just saying, I just was wanting to bring that forward because when I saw the $1 million, now I want to get to the conversation about the $1 million handbag.
Yeah, because we've gone a far way off the $1 million handbag.
Well, the conversation initially was about the two things: the
Okay.
purse situation,
All
the
right.
men carrying purses in the
Okay.
NBA, a place which is forever seen as masculinity. Some people may say toxic masculinity. There's a lot of that there as well. But now we're seeing them wearing skirts and handbags. So I guess people who talk about toxic masculinity are probably excited. But the other thing is the $1 million handbag. Who do you think this $1 million handbag that Pharrell has created is geared toward?
Well, I'd have to see it again. If it's an overnight bag,
It's $1 million handbag.
Yeah, I mean, the
You're not,
ultra rich.
you're not actually
You
going to
gotta
be
be
carrying
worth-
it around.
you've got to be worth people worth hundreds of millions of dollars. They'll carry around $1 million bag. No problem.
Who do we think this $1 million handbag
It's the
is
same
from?
market that buys anything else for $1 million.
And the people
Well,
that
buying a house for $1 million is a lot different than buying
that's
a
exactly
handbag
what I'm
for $1
saying.
million.
So if it were LeBron James saying, "Oh, we're going to
He
$1 million,"
can afford $1 million bag.
we expect that. But why would we want him to get $1 million bag? Because other folks who see LeBron James as a style or something to achieve, an iconic figure, they can make a ton of money, $1 million a pop. If LeBron gets the bag, that's what's hot. Then James Harden's got to get the bag. Then, you know, all of the Antoine, all of these.
The market for $1 million bag is so small.
But folks on Wall Street are not buying $1 million bags, even though they have the money.
no, they're not.
And so this is a perfect example of what I think drives me crazy, because certain populations teach their communities to invest in things that appreciate, to spend their money in their community, and to make it rotate and to grow and to come back and all of these other things. But then they target our community, and I say our community because I think this is targeted toward Black athletes. This nonsense of buying $1 million bag from a designer who has $1 bazillion and all of his stuff is overpriced already. To what? Make our communities better. What portion of dollars of this $1 million bag are going to go to help folks or change people's lives?
Well,
Go ahead.
we've talked about this before, where celebrities and sports stars and all that have
It's
become,
not just celebrities.
have become idols and to be emulated in American culture.
Absolutely.
And I think it's exploiting that. I'm not sure if it's a racial thing
Oh.
necessarily, but
when was the last time you've seen a country music video?
I've never seen
I
one.
don't
So
want-
that,
When have you seen a country artist, country music artist?
okay, but there are plenty of
Have you ever seen him on Good Morning America?
I
Have you ever
don't-
seen him perform at? What about the Country Music Awards? Have you ever seen them?
no.
Have you seen the Black Music Awards?
Have you ever seen a
No,
country
No.
music
Yeah,
singer?
Yeah.
Okay. What is the typical of attire of a country?
Okay.
music artist?
Why a country? There are plenty.
Well,
of,
because
there are plenty of white movie stars, plenty of white
Mark Wahlberg,
people
perfect
in-
example.
who have, like, you look at the transgender movement, that is huge in those circles, and it's a similar.
What's
This
huge?
is something to be emulated.
What is huge?
Transgenderism, non-binaryism.
Okay, but that's not the conversation that we're having. My
But
question is,
what I'm saying is these are ways in which industry exploits celebrity and idolatry.
okay, and I want to be more specific about this, the exploitation that's taking place, because I think that this is something where they directly target Black athletes who have a ton of money, who tend to think that dressing up their outsides somehow gives them a certain standard or position in life. And this is what I would consider capitalism, capitalizing off of the
But that-
foolishness of that particular group, instead of really doing something that can really make an impact and make change happen.
Well, those are two different things, because I think companies like this.
How are
target-
they different?
They target all different segments.
Who's
of
the
public.
producer of the bag?
Louis Vuitton.
Who's the
They're
designer of
using
the bag?
Pharrell. I don't know if Pharrell did
They're
anything
using
with this
Pharrell
bag
for
other than
why
his
would they use
name.
Pharrell? Do you think that they're trying
Well,
to
they're
influence-
probably targeting a specific market.
So what would be Pharrell's market?
Probably black music, black athletes.
That's-
Here's where I was going though. If you'd let me finish. Would
Okay,
you let
go
me-
ahead.
They use other celebrities to target different markets. So this isn't a racial thing. They're using specific celebrities to target specific markets.
This is $1 million bag
Mhm.
that is produced by a black producer that has a urban following
Sure.
and a hip hop culture realm in which he
Right.
operates. Okay, so I get target marketing. It's
Yep.
it's what we do. It's how businesses make
Right.
money.
Yep.
But why would you target this particular population with $1 million? It's the
Because they
first.
have a lot of money.
It is the first ever of its kind.
Well, no, I don't know how much of a Birkin bag. I mean, there are other very expensive items out there. That, like
Warren
cars.
Buffett has a lot of money.
Sure, he does.
Michael Bloomberg has a lot of money.
Sure, he does. But they're not going to spend it that way, probably.
And they're also not going to attract other people to spend the money.
Right.
Like that.
Absolutely, that's exactly what I'm saying. So
Because
they're
of
using.
the value.
There's a stereotype that black athletes and black.
So you
music
understand
stars-
what I'm talking? That's
Well, yeah,
not
but
like you don't know what I'm
that's not
talking about. Then
racist. That's just understanding your market. and
what
your
are
targeting.
stereotypes derived from?
What is it if it's not?
There is.
Why is it so hard? Why is it so hard to just say it
Say what?
that it's true?
What is
Because
true?
because the market is targeted. It's not general marketing,
No,
It's targeted.
it's targeted
targeted.
marketing.
and
For
it's
sure.
targeted at a specific market.
Right.
Why is it so hard to say that?
It's not. I'm not. That's exactly what I'm saying.
But the point being made is that this happens to black people.
And that's
And not
exactly
white
the
people.
point.
No,
No, he didn't say not white
Okay.
people.
I
He
didn't
said
say it didn't happen.
this particular function, this
Yes.
particular product
Yes,
is targeted at black people, according to Kareem's.
that's
perspective.
exactly
And
what
you're
I'm saying.
saying, but you're saying that it is.
I didn't say that targeted marketing does not happen across the spectrum, but I'm saying that
Why
this
is it a racial issue all of a sudden? Then?
because the issue is,
That's the part that gets me.
and this
Yeah,
is
I know.
conversation.
That statement is the part that gets me.
Why is it a
It's-
racial issue?
It's not a racial issue all of a sudden. It's a racial issue because it was intended to be targeted
That's
to
it.
a race group.
That's it.
It's the same thing as I remember how I felt when I first heard about the movie Angry something Chinese. What's the movie?
Huh?
Rich
Rich, Angry Rich Asian.
Angry-
Angry Rich Asian.
Asian, yeah,
There's a movie called Angry
I
Rich
think
Asian?
so. Something like that.
something like that.
Yeah. I'll
Okay.
Google it.
Go ahead.
And that is the same kind of thing that was the stereotypical approach to a lot of things down through the years that have come toward African Americans.
Crazy Rich Asians.
Yeah, Crazy Rich Asians, and it was categorized as that. It was promoted as that, and it was a stereotypical approach of presenting Asians in a way that was comedic, it was funny, but it could have easily been considered abrasive and abusive and racist. Now, it wasn't like it all of a sudden was like that. It was designed to be exactly
Absolutely.
that. And I think it's difficult for me to hear how something all of a sudden it's something wrong with saying what it is. It is what it is.
It is. It's targeted marketing. They're targeting that population, just like there are other marketing campaigns that target different markets.
And so when we say that that we understand that this target, that doesn't bother you to some degree as
No,
a black,
not at all.
and I can understand why, because it doesn't impact your.
Well, there's marketing
population.
targeted to me.
I've been trying to pull up the list of brands endorsed by Taylor Swift. It's not loading, but can you imagine that list?
No. You're missing.
That's targeted at white people.
You're
That is
missing.
targeting the white.
You're
No, it's not.
if I can make us a point, and finish my point, and I appreciate your passion, Jonathan, but this is a perfect example. $1 million bag,
Mhm.
which doesn't have any intrinsic value to start with other than someone else's label, which is not benefiting the community. And it increases the number of people that are going to go out and buy that bag when we could really invest and build our own communities. We'll take a quick break and be back.
You're listening to United Shades of Gray on WSGW.
This is Kareem, and we're back with more United Shades of Gray, Conversations of Race Anymore in America. I was thinking in my head, we're not going to talk about handbags anymore. Conversations of Race in America. Okay, we are back, and we're going to get to what I want to really talk. We got Bishop Hurley Coleman in the house on today, and Bishop Coleman, I really wanted to talk a little bit. We have been having some conversations. Really, I sent you a message, and we talked a little bit on a concept that came from the African warrior Maasai, Kasaria Ingera, Are the Children Well? And it began a conversation about legacy and passing on legacy. I know that you've been thinking about that. I just want you to share a little bit. When we talk about legacy and preservation of legacy, what comes to mind?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is the appreciation of antiquities. I mean, a lot of people really don't think about old things, heirlooms, old things that family carries down that are traded down from generation to generation, because many times the strength of a family is based on how many generations you can record, how many generations you know. There was a time in my community, in the African American community, where there were always 2 or 3 generations living in the same environment. You got father, grandfather, great grandfather, mother, grandmother, great grandmother. Then you got grandchildren and great grandchildren. And in my church, I had one instance where we actually had 5 generations in one family at the same time in the church, and they were all active and engaged in the church. And what that does is it creates a richness to your culture. It creates a richness to your being. And I've always seen it where the previous generations can strengthen the next generation. So if I look at today's environment, one of the tragedies about today's environment across the racial and cultural spectrum is that young people today don't have antiquity to hold on to. They don't have the generations that preceded them that they can hold on to and even quote things that were said to them to give them some basis. So what I think about is, how can I invest myself in pointing backwards and forwards at the same time?
Sankofa. That's the Operation Sankofa. So I opened up
these words. I appreciate the fact that you say these words, but I hope people understand.
No, that's what we're going to do.
These words come from a dialect, from a language for us.
Absolutely.
That is antiquity itself. It's a motherland nature. It's a cultural history lesson in just one word, Sankofa, even the first one.
Yeah, so Sankofa is the concept of reaching back as we push forward into the future. So it's bringing those who are behind, the ancestors, those no man left behind, even including our past, as we forge forward to greatness. But I started with Kasarian Ingera, and I love that. And the meaning of that word, it was a traditional greeting that the Maasai warriors of Africa would use, and it simply meant, "How are the children?" or "Are the children well?" And the response would be, "The children are well." And it sparked a conversation,
because what I said was, when that statement happens, it means that the village is well.
That's right.
Which is critical. And if we look at the village and figure out, it's like, and this is a big jump from where you were, but it's like, I said this to somebody the other day. I said, if you really want to know how valuable young people are in a city, in a government, in an organization, look at their budget. If there's no money assigned to young people, then the value of young people does not exist in that organization.
Absolutely.
And so then that means that the future doesn't exist. You can't. How do you plan a future without planning for the people who are going to be in that future? And so that if it goes back to what I was saying about young people today that have no antiquity to hold on to, it's because antiquity hasn't invested themselves in young people.
And so when I think about this, what comes to mind is the value that we assign to young people, but it also means, what are we teaching? What are the images that we're showing young people? What are we giving them to hope for, to pursue, to trust? What are the lessons that are being given? And that's why the $1 million handbag burned by, it really got my goat going. But what was more important about that conversation, Bishop, and that I began with you, was, where are the voices of our fathers?
Yeah.
And those who are to impart what we would consider rich legacy, those who are to carry the story and to keep the traditions and those things of value going. Do you believe that we have an absence of fathers?
I think it's a little bit more complex than that. I
Okay.
think it is the fact that the fathers of today don't realize that they're fathers, because many of the fathers, at an age that should be considered a father. I'm 70 years old. My generation is the fathers that we were looking at years ago. My generation does not always accept the fact that now we're in a position where it's our responsibility to act like a father, as opposed to wanting to be a peer or a child or as young as the young folks. So I would say that maybe there's not necessarily the absence of fathers, but there's
their voices.
The voices aren't
Yes.
there.
Yes.
And so that's twofold. That means the voice does no good if it's not heard. That means the person who has the voice has to speak, and the person who's listening has to hear it. There's a marriage between those two. But maybe it's the truth, Kareem. It's a hard truth for us to recognize at this season in our lives, in our communities' lives, in our cultural lives, that some of the people who are in positions of fatherhood are not accepting the responsibility.
Ooh.
Quick question. Do you mind if
Go
I
ahead.
ask a question?
No, go ahead,
I
go ahead,
guess
go ahead.
one of the things that kind of has been running around in my mind as you guys have been talking is it, do you think people and culture have changed? And it's probably some of both of these things, or the fact that the world that we live in changes. And what I'm thinking back to is like like where my dad grew up, families all lived and stayed in the same area. And you know, they grew up in like a multi-generational home, and no one ever left the town.
Right.
And in today's world, like I have 7 kids, and the closest one's 10 hours away. And just in today's world, there's no more nuclear family, that kind of multi-generational nuclear family that stays together physically, and they just kind of spread to the wind, because that's kind of today's economy. It
is a cultural shift that's based on a social shift that's prompted by an economic shift.
Okay.
There are very few places of employment that a young person can get into today, like my father did 50 years, 60
Right.
years ago, and know that he would be there until he retired.
Right.
Very few people retire from their first job.
Oh,
I mean, it used to be like multi-generations working at
in the same place because the job, the economy was fixed, it was there,
Right.
and there was a natural. And so actually, that generational thing was that the father would bring the son to
Right.
work, and they'd work together, and so that family would be there. They buy houses close to the neighborhood, but now you're more likely to be from someplace than to be in a place.
Right.
When I think about this conversation, I think that's very important, what you guys are talking about. But one of the things, and you said it appropriately when you said the voices of those fathers. There was a time that I remember growing up as a kid that they were iconic legacy holders or placeholders in our community. The Reverend Austins, the Londons, those voices of men that could literally stand up in the community, in the village, or whatever you want to call it. And they can say, hey, this is the way that we're going. This is important to us. This is why we do this. And the community would follow. I think that there is a great need and a void in those spaces. Not that there are not leaders and iconic figures that we don't have, but as you said, there is a silence from the position of leadership that I think our community needs to hear. What do we do when there are leaders, but those leaders are not being vocal or verbal with what they feel is necessary?
I can speak to this from experience, and it's almost difficult to say it, but I have been in places where I spoke up and I represented what I really believe was right. And the challenge is that we're in a day now where people don't want anybody to be the leader.
Gotcha.
People don't want anybody.
We'll all lead.
Yeah, that's the whole. It's almost like you remember what happened. Think about this, Kareem. You both guys, you can remember what happened. The time between if you got in a race, one person would win, and person would get the medal. The second person get the medal. The third person get the medal. And then we went to a season where everybody gets a medal.
We can't have any losers. We got everybody's gonna win.
So that creates this mentality that I got as much voice as you. But you can't have as much voice. You can't have as much knowledge as I have because I've got 45 years on you of experience. Even my failures transcend your victories. The things. So there's the one side of this is that what made those great leaders was that there were great followers, and there was a willingness to allow somebody to be heard and not have to compete with that. That's one side of it. Then the other side of it is that this feeling of their voice is the same as mine. My idea is just as good as anybody else's.
Yeah.
Anything goes.
Yeah.
So that diminishes the strength of one voice over another.
You know what? That is such a powerful revelation for me today. I didn't even think about it that way, but you're absolutely right. There has been such a fight from this younger generation to be seen and to be equal. If you think about it, we have literally turned the world upside down, trying to figure out how to communicate with millennials for the past 5 to 7 years in such a way that we haven't really taken into account. And I think that it's important for everyone to be a part of the conversation, but there is a value that we have lost on those who have experience and the voices of maturity in our community.
And I think that this and what you started out talking about, Bishop, where some of the older members of communities don't want to accept that position of, okay, it's time for us to pass on what we know. It's time for us to, there's a void there. And as all of these voices try and fill that void, of course, they're going to compete with one another.
But I think that why should I keep talking if no one's going to listen?
Well, that's I was just going to say that one of the elements of this whole thing is the reality of rejection. The reality of rejection is both sides. Young people don't want to be rejected because they're young. Or older people don't want to be rejected because they're old. So at some point in time, people become resistant to making the effort for fear of rejection.
You know what? I want to shift the conversation because one of these things that is very important to me is leadership, and I've been having conversations about who leads matters and the faces of leadership matter. And I know that there are a lot of people, y'all don't realize it, but he is the Don in the community that folks go to, and they ask you these, how do you think we should fare? And they come to you with those things. Recently, and I know that this individual I hope I don't get in trouble for this, but we're going there. Recently, Dr. Pamela Pugh has announced that she was going to suspend her candidacy for U.S. Senator, and which was where Stabenow was, and she's going to move into where
race for
Dan Kim for U.S. Dan Kildee's position. Did she come to you and have conversations?
Absolutely, she did.
I told y'all he's the Don Dada. He's the voice.
She did. She's a member of our congregation.
Okay,
but she's also a person that I have watched her. I've watched her develop and go. But let me tell you who else came.
Okay.
No, I can't tell you the names.
Okay.
But a number of other people came to me as well.
Is it wrong to talk about who comes to talk to you about?
I don't usually.
Okay.
Because especially when I've decided that I'm going to be in one place versus the other.
Okay.
I have, let me tell you what I do. I have great respect for people where they are.
Okay.
This congressional race is really important. And I really believe that this is a good place for Dr. Pugh to be and be a candidate for this. I also think that we've got some other leaders, legislative leaders and other community leaders who are in other places. And I have a respect for them as well. But think about this. Everybody who's in the race right now is either already in an elected position, have running for another position, or had thought about being or has been an elected person. There's no reason that anybody like people say, well, why is she jumping out the race now just to get in that one? Well,
that would be my question.
Everybody else is too.
Right.
Everybody else that wants to get in the race, they're all doing it. So you can't make one thing wrong and the other is okay.
Well, the question that I would ask if I were going to play devil's advocate is, and this is a question of leadership, because if she's coming to you, these are factors that I think that you would say. And I thought about this. I was like, am I going to bring this up? I'm going to bring it up. Saying that I want to be the U.S. Senator and then saying, oh, there's another position available. I'm going to leave this position to go to this position. For some folks, they might say, does this mean that you're going to be able to complete the task? Are you sure you want this job, or do you just want a job? What would you say?
The value for her coming to me with that is my exposure in the political environment. And so when I look at the two races, the Senate race is a statewide race, and she was a qualified candidate because she's one of the few people. She's the only person in the Senate race that has been elected statewide, and she served at a statewide level. But when you look at the district level, Pam Pugh is a person who wants to serve her community, and the district level gives her a more concise and precise approach to serving her community, serving the region that she's from. It's the same motivation to go to Washington, D.C. and represent her hometown. It's just from a different perspective. It would be the same as if any other candidate who was in an office or running for an office decided, I think I'm going to go for this one, because I promise you, I believe that if this position had been available, they both had been available and open at the same time, we wouldn't even be having this conversation.
There would have been a distinctive decision then. All right, so I want to go back just a little bit. Generically speaking, as we look at this, one of my biggest gripes has been there hasn't been the voice of wisdom to really share why. And I think that as Black folks, we're not a monolith. We're not all one people, but there were times when the leaders of the church would gather the communities together and say, this is why we need to move this direction. When I look at what's available and what's at stake in 2024, does representation matter?
Oh my God. This is one of the reasons that I am adamant about being involved in public conversation. And if anybody's been paying attention, I don't miss. Do you realize, Kareem, that I was the only pastor that actually hosted redistricting meetings?
I do realize
and the reason is because the conversation had to happen. It had to be made relevant to people, that you have the privilege now of determining your own destiny. This District 8, was redesigned during the redistricting. And it was redesigned to include the four main urban centers from north of Detroit, Flint, Saginaw, Midland, and Bay City, because that area had never had collective representation. And this area, this particular district, has never had federal representation from the city of Saginaw, and never has there been a congressional representation that's from the African-American community. All of those things, plus the finite area of service that the congressional district has, which is different from this area of service of the Senate district, is another critical reason why a Saginaw-based, an African-American who has credentials in political activity would be perfect for that opportunity.
This is awesome. This is a great conversation. I'm really sorry for interjecting, but this is what you're talking about. We're talking in politics, and it would be easy to dismiss, oh, this is more political talk. You're talking about a campaign for something. No, this is someone from an older generation talking to someone from a younger generation, but you're on a public platform saying this to anyone that will listen, articulating why a decision is being made and why people are moving in a certain direction. This is what you're saying when you're saying, where are the voices of the fathers?
Absolutely.
This is community leaders being able to explain why this is good for the community, why something is bad for the community.
Why?
I'm sitting here watching.
So now you got to ask this question. So why is this happening now? And I'll tell you why. It's because someone from a younger generation wants to hear
Mm.
what another generation has to say.
Good point. That's a good point. Because honestly, I called you.
Yeah, you did.
And I'll say this. One thing that I was always taught was to respect the value that maturity has in the room. And as my mama might say, I was raised right. I don't always act like it. And I can be a person who says, no, my voice is going to be heard and I will forge forward. But I understood there is something so unique about this season. And when I began to get upset about, hey, why are we not talking about what's happening on city council? Why are we not? I came to you because you're one of those individuals that I think when I think about the voices that we need to hear, that we don't often hear. And so I wanted to know your perspective on these things and what should we be doing. One of the things that I want to ask, and we only got a few minutes left here, is as we look at where we're approaching, I remember Pastor Austin would say, it's not your time yet, or you need to, and he would talk about how people could want to be in positions, but it's not your time. What do you say as we enter into this season so that there's not a bloodbath when it comes to the agenda or the perspectives of Black America in this community?
I think it's important for us to, everybody, as I said, there's value in everybody's position. We've got some great leaders that I have supported in elected positions. We supported them in these elected positions, and now they're in the place to do what we supported them to do. It's premature to get out of that place at a time when you can really now deliver, especially at a time when we need it. And back with the discussion that
if I were not a fool, I would think that you would be talking about 8th District Senator Rivet. State Senator Rivet. I'm just saying
who it is.
I'm just saying, because I would think that we just put her in and she's been elected recently, 8-10 months ago.
There's she's has said that she's interested in the race, and other elected officials have said they're interested in the race. And what you said about Reverend Austin saying it's not
to throw you under the bus,
not
Bishop.
the time. Well, I've been under the bus before. I know how to roll in between the wheels so I don't get run over.
This is what I talk about, the young man getting in trouble. But go ahead, Bishop. We got 2 minutes.
But when Reverend Austin would say, "Wait," and this is what's important, and I think everybody got to hear this. Wait, this is not your time. When your time comes, I'll be there for you. That's the position that I'm in now. That's the position that I'm in now. If you got my support and you wanted my support, then you need to be able to hear what I'm saying and believe that what I believe is important. So the time will come when I'll support you. If I'm not supporting you in this, I'll support you again at another time. And I think, and let me say this for everybody to listen to, please do not take it for granted that just because the urban communities and African Americans have always voted, if we don't have something for people to vote for, we can't even motivate them to vote. And that's too much at stake. So we probably do need to talk about whose turn is best right now.
Who are the other voices of the community that should be a part of that conversation?
There are some other voices.
Other fathers.
There are some fathers, and I think people know who they are because you go to them on your own. You go to them privately, and I think that we should pull them together and just call for a conversation of the elders.
From purses to politics, this has been an awesome conversation. I'm certainly thankful, Bishop, for you coming in. Please don't beat me up after we're done with this.
I would not do. I treasure the opportunity to see you get your foot stuck in the mud and then be able to pull you out. I love you, man.
I thank you for answering those questions. But as we move forward and we look at 2024, these are very dynamic and important conversations that we must have. Thank you so much, Mark and John B. in the studio today with me as we talk about the legacy that must continue. Where are our fathers? Thank you for tuning in. And as always, grace and peace.